Welcome to Understanding the Digitsole Pro Gait and Lower Extremity Movement Analysis System. So happy to talk you through and walk you through with visuals as well as video on exactly what this product does and also how it can benefit the clinic. So we'll go through who is Digitsole, what value it provides you, and then we'll actually take a quick look at the data. So we'll then actually go to the app, show you what's inside of the app, and take it from there. So I'm going to go ahead and screen. So let's just quickly watch a video.
Digitsole Pro equips HCPs with dynamic movement technology and research-grade assessments to save you time and create measurable outcomes. We help engage your patients in a more successful treatment journey. Digitsole adds efficiency and efficacy to your clinical decisions. Our patented DS pod is the smallest sensor in the world and measures over 30 biomechanical parameters. It's built with real-time dynamic 3D motion capture for precise assessments of patient conditions and helps you provide improved care. Setup is easy. Get up and running in under 10 minutes. Our native app easily syncs with the DS pods wirelessly to analyze movement data, collecting rich data during fast and complex motion. The multi-axis technology in our DS pods detects your patient's activity. Proprietary artificial intelligence-powered algorithms translate those motion analytics into your assessment dashboard. You'll see a full report in minutes. Our data efficiently guides the clinical decision and treatment plan for patients with conditions like low back pain, SI joint pain, knee injuries, hip issues, and plantar fasciitis. Our assessments are invaluable in supporting injury prevention and return to work programs. Dynamic 3D Move Scan with the Performance Rehab module, which provides quantified data from jump tests that allows patients to train for injury prevention, proper recovery and pre, mid, and post-season assessments. The running module can capture multi-plane movement data in your office or in the field with the DS pod, so you get a true 3D assessment of running patterns, unlike anything else on the market. Our app features remote patient monitoring for more flexibility with patient management, safety, and care path optimization. Digitsole helps you define a better treatment journey with quick, easy-to-interpret results and validated patient outcomes to set your practice up for success.
So that gives everybody just a brief scope on, what is Digitsole, who we're about, and a high-level view of the incredible data and activities that you can pull information out and movements with your patient in the clinic. So what is Digitsole? So just to recap, Digitsole is a patented human motion technology that uses sensors to capture motion. And the way that we like to look at it is, if you take the key features of force plate and motion capture and fuse them into one system, that's what you're getting with the Digitsole Pro system, right? It is all based in cloud. So as we'll talk through the hardware here in a moment, as the sensors collect the data, it's transmitted to the app, which then in the cloud kind of unpackages the data. And the beauty of that is you can not only you not only have unbridled access to a tablet environment, but you're also able to use a web app. More importantly, guys, is we're accurate, and we have research to prove it. And so with repeatability, we're able to measure, gait analysis, performance, and function. And the idea is, well, how do we create this baseline assessment tool to enhance treatment plans, identify deficits for not only athletes, but also, maybe those elderly patients that are coming through your clinic. Now, let's talk a little bit about why Digitsole. What is it about it that you're going to want to bring it into your clinic? Number one, it's recovery. That's the reason they're in rehab more than and physical therapy is because they need recovery of their physical ailments. So what we do is bridge the gap between your medical rehabilitation treatment and really your patient's full potential, right? So we give you the data that helps you establish where they are today and where we need to take them for the future, and monitor that through the whole life cycle of treatment. It is portable, which is beautiful. So it is very compact, simple, and you can take it anywhere. So you can be in the clinical environment, but if you want to take them into a real world environment, walking down the street, running on a field, whatever it may be, you have that option. And the technology in general is patented and it measures, as I mentioned, the lower extremity biomechanical data with really strong validity, and helps to assess this quantified and qualitative movement data that you're going to see. Now, let's talk real briefly about the web-based and mobile applications. So now we're going to get into the more specific aspects of Digitsole. First of all, our software is an intuitive and extremely easy to use. Once you get in there, you'll see it's not hard to navigate around, but more importantly, we're able to easily access the data and pick certain points inside of our rich 32 parameters that we offer within Walk and Run. Now, the hardware is extremely unique in the fact that we actually offer what is the smallest sensor for its type in production, and that is what we call our DS pod or Digitsole pod. And this pod basically will allow, and what is, if you will, the engine of what collects all the data. Okay, so it's a combination of things like an accelerometer and a gyroscope, and it records steps, stride length, forces being exerted, newtons onto the ground, and many other types of data. It is driven also through our proprietary algorithm. And that proprietary algorithm is what kind of unpackages the raw data that's in here to give it to make it a very usable data. Now, the question is what's the vehicle? Where does this go in? And if you pay attention to your screen, you'll notice that there is a set of insoles. So it's roughly 6 sets of insoles. These pods insert into the insoles, and then what you do is put them in a patient's shoe, and then they're off walking or running or jumping, depending on what the activity is. And that's how you're collecting the data. Now, let's take a quick look at, now that we know what the hardware and software and how they work together and what data they're, what are we really using this for? As I mentioned, 32 different parameters, and really recommended for anything from MSK disorders, return to sport, active, fall assessment, which is obviously very important now, and even neurological disorders, being able to track the progression or regression of those. So what about the data? 32 walk and run parameters, overall 20 performance parameters, which are based on jumping motions. As I mentioned, it's 3-dimensional. And I think what's really unique about this is the fact that you can take this real world. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just quickly walk you through the 3 different modules that we have, and then a couple add-ons. We'll go a little bit deeper into jump, and then we'll have a quick look at the interface to see what that looks like. Okay. So first, there's walk module. You can see the general parameters, the foot kinematics, and the advanced parameters that we measure, right? I won't go through every single one of them, but as you can see, very broad, very rich in what we measure. On the run module, run is got some incredible details. It captures things that you're, typically won't even be able to measure with cameras. So it makes the experience inside of run very valuable. So again, general parameters, foot kinematics, and advanced parameters. And last but not least, what is considered our performance rehab module. Now, this performance rehab module basically is based on 4 key jumping movements, which is counter movement jump, single jump, lateral, and triple hop, right? And so think about this from a baseline for prevention, return to play, and in other areas as well, that you are going to have a much higher activity that you need to measure. Okay. So let's just take a look real quick. I'm going to go a little deeper into PRM, or we call performance rehab module. And what do these jumps look like? Kind of what some of the data look like, and then we'll actually take a dive, just because we're finding this is a very unique feature inside of the system. So one here is this is considered our counter movement jump, which is basically just a single vertical jump, right? So we're measuring things like symmetry, how high they jump, and a jump profile, along with some other advanced features. And then there's the single hop. Now, the single hop is a single leg for distance hop. Again, same thing. We're looking at symmetry, distance, flight time, other rich details. And not only that we're looking at what time is spent in the air, but also what the quality is like when we meet the ground. Okay. And I think that's what was very thing is, are we stable or are we unstable? Lateral hop. So this one basically looks at what is 30 seconds on each single leg, a lateral hop between a specific distance. And again, really interesting jump count, symmetry, the cadence evolution, the milliseconds spent in the air and on the ground, and also looking at the quality of the land. Okay. And then last but not least, I think this is probably the most famous of these performance tests, which is considered the triple hop. The triple hop then looks at a summary or a symmetry of what are the 3 hops put together. So basically, if you look at this, you'll see 1, 2, 3. And the idea here is the distance between each one of them, the quality of the hop, as well as other factors like height, and time spent in the air, and more importantly on this, it's about the symmetry. Okay. Now, last but not least on this, I want to think, and I think a feature that is very underappreciated inside the Digitsole system is with the walk, run, and performance rehab modules, you do have the opportunity to also video. So you can toggle on, and while they're doing the activity, take a video and use the video to actually lay it next to the data to kind of analyze, what am I seeing visually versus what am I seeing objectively through data? So it gives you 2 different scopes. If you haven't had a chance to experience video or you'd like to experience, let us know. This is an absolutely phenomenal feature within inside the system. Okay, so now from here, what I'm going to do is we are going to take a quick tour through the actual software. Okay, so let's just take a quick tour through what the interface looks like in the data we get. So this is the web interface. The app has a similar look and feel, obviously just on a tablet or a phone environment. So on the left, we have what is considered home, patients, equipment, settings, and support. So the primary pieces that you'll be using is these first 3, which is this kind of gives you just a quick snapshot of, how many patients do I have? What are my modules looking like, kind of, if you will, your stuff, so you understand it. Patients, this gives you a scope of, here's all your patients. You can add a new patient here. You can search for specific patients. And then, this looks at the amount of devices, or if you will, our pods, which is these that are inside of your system and are able to connect to what is the tablet. Now, the data itself is acquired from, as I mentioned, the sensor to the app, which is the Digitsole Pro native app in the tablet setting, be it iOS or Android. Now, once you actually collect the data through the app, this is where it displays in addition to the app is on the web interface. So I'm going to go through the web interface, and let's just look at a couple quick analysis, and I'll use me for an example. So again, I'm going to click on random. We're going to first look at walk. So just so everybody's aware, walk and run are sold together as one bundle. So here's my dashboard. Here's showing basically, and we can add conditions. We can also add reason for consultations, and it shows my latest activities. So as you can see, I've got about 5 different walk activities. Now I'm going to give you some detail before I go into this specific analysis. At this point in time, I personally had a low back strain I did while doing a squat exercise. So there is an interpretation guide if you have questions that you can download straight from the interface. And you do have things like being able to filter out and creating custom filters, along with looking at different details, and beautifully being able to export the data, compare the data, and also be able to rename the analysis. Instead of just walk, you can name it, Brandon's walk on January 3rd, whatever it may be. All right, so let's just first there's initially a global view, which looks at, this is kind of the core fundamental data that you need to establish. So symmetry, which is looking at a walking profile stance, are we symmetrical? Cadence, which is a steps over minute, and the speed. So if you notice they're in green, we're in a favorable area. If it's in yellow, it's kind of like a stop sign. We're in a questionable area, and red, it's something that needs to be actively addressed. Okay. So first we have the walking profile, and this looks at stance versus swing time, and also the length of the actual profile from the time in 1 foot meets the ground to the time it happens again. Now, here's what it is in advanced to give you an idea. We're able to toggle on the advanced setting, which then digs into the details further, such as stride duration in milliseconds, stride length in inches, again, swing time in milliseconds, and stance time in milliseconds. And then as we move down further, this is the gait line. This is how pressure is moving through the foot. So as you can see, it's quite favorable here. It also gives us the time spent in each category. So, are they having a hard time getting through progression of movement through the foot? And then propulsion ratio. So I want to really call this out here. This is specific to me. So again, musculoskeletal low back pain strain predominantly displaying on the right-hand side of the back. Now, what we're able to see here is this is how the plantar flexors or gastrocs work in harmony with or against the hip flexors. So as a protection factor for me specifically, I was having a harder time engaging my hip flexors. So what the algorithm is able to do, bringing in multiple pieces of the analysis, is really analyze where one is working harder than the other. And in this instance, we can see my left side's looking pretty good. My right side, my gastroc is working harder as a compensatory type of motion. So we already know by looking at this, we definitely have some inhibition issues happening at the hip flexors, which might be evidence, but sometimes you don't understand exactly to what degree. This data can help you to understand better to what degree that is. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up here and click on details. When I click on details, you're going to see a whole nother set of data that gives you things such as dynamic pronation, supination, so you can see how the foot is functioning. Again, the foot is the foundation of our building of the building of the body, and we're able to see, should we potentially look at, is pronation a factor in the condition of this patient, or supination? And in my instance, you can see my right foot, which is the affected side, has some excess pronation issues as we get late mid stance into toe off. Excuse me. Foot progression angle looks at AB adduction of the foot and circumduction. So specific instance here, I've got 6.2% abduction on the left, and on the right 16. So as you can see, a pretty significant delta left to right, roughly 10 degrees. So again, this was a compensation for the way I was walking. So we're able to use this as a baseline to objectively assess how well is my patient getting. A 1.4 inches is also my circumduction on right versus left. And then a factor on me that I'm, not as much of an issue for, but think about those patients who might be considered a fall risk, or that you are really concerned about, making sure that they're staying upright as long as possible. And this is what we call steppager clearance. And this looks at not only the angle the foot leaves the ground, but the clearance of the toe over the ground, and what we call the attack angle. So basically the dorsiflexion angle their heel strikes the ground. So are they a shuffler, right? So as we know, a shuffle gait is not ideal. And this data right here helps for you to understand. Now, I want to show you a couple other key tools. Below each of these, you're going to find that there is a just very brief and quick interpretation. You are able to add comments. And we also give you a somewhat of a global interpretation as well. Okay, so that's part of the algorithm and the beauty of that. And I want to just show you one other quick feature, which is called evolution. Now, evolution is able to look at multiple different factors and what is the evolution either in a positive or negative manner around symmetry, cadence, speed. So it takes the multiple analysis you've done and compiles them into one graph or chart. And again, it includes all the parameters that I showed you earlier. Okay, so that's a quick view on walk. Let's now take a quick look at run. All right, so we're going to take a quick look at Tom Allen. All right, so Tom, let's go through here. We'll take a detail on the first one. All right, so we'll see here total time is roughly 2 minutes spent running. Guys, the time that we can spend running is significant. Again, as I mentioned, real world. So if you want to put a set of insoles, let them go out into the real world and run a 5K or 12K, whatever it may be, by all means, the recording time that is available is roughly 2 hours. So you have a lot of time for them to clutch it. So notice here, speed and cadence. So this looks at obviously miles per hour, and then cadence, which is steps over minute, and also where was the analysis type taken. All right. Now here gives you just a quick graph, and just this is in 10-second increments, as you see at the bottom. And what we give you is the data on 15-second increments, right? So you can look at what is the Gait over speed ratio here. So are we following a linear line? Do they converge or diverge at some point? which is going to measure things like fatigue factors and other things as well. And then we look at things like asymmetry. So this is the amount that is spent more time on the right in contact with than the left. So there's a bit of an asymmetrical run here, that right foot spending a little bit more time on it. Strike pattern. So are we a heel striker, a midfoot striker, or a forefoot striker? Really great information so that if you need to train runners to do things differently, you're able to. And the amount of newtons that are being exerted down onto the shoe or onto the ground. Then we look at running profile, which is stance time versus swing time. And you can look at the deltas here. So are we symmetrical or are we asymmetrical? And then I'm going to get to pronation, supination angles. Guys, in run, this is extremely hard to measure. I'm happy to say that our system, our sensors measure it accurately. And I can scroll over these different dots at different points and actually find exactly how much pronation or supination or angulation that the patient has experienced through a time. And the middle centerpiece is what you're considering our kind of our median, and then there is a mid and a max as well. And there is an absolute and relative. There is no relative, absolute data behind run, so you can also do it relative to the patient. All right. Now, one thing that I do want to highlight that I think is an awesome feature inside of this, if I go over to details, is I'm able to pick 2 points in time. So let's just say at second 15 or second 15, and then we'll go at minute 145. And I'm able to layer that data over each other and look to say, what am I seeing as a difference? So we can see here his symmetry is actually improving. His force is actually not improving. And then we get a lot of other metrics such as stride length, stance time, swing time, angulation, so on and so forth. And then you can write your comments. So the beauty is you can look at things like fatigue. And then you're also able to say, hey, patient, where did you begin to hurt? I hurt at minute 1. Okay, great. Let's look at times when you didn't hurt versus times when you hurt and see biomechanically what those deltas look like. Okay. Same thing we're able to do here is layer over an evolution. And on this one, I'm going to briefly show you also. So this is your evolution your evolution. And what I'm also going to do is go back to the dashboard. Sorry, guys, it took a little bit of a wrong turn, but that's okay. And then if I click on this, I'm going to just do a quick export. So inside of this, you can see I'm able to export the data to a PDF, which can be either sent to a referrer, given to a patient, or even uploaded into a medical record system. Okay, I'm able to modify the details I see on this as well. And then on the bottom, you are able to also put comments and actions that are recommended. All right. So that is a little bit on run. Now I'm going to show you one other thing, and that is going to be on what we consider jump or performance rehab. All right. So I'm going to go to a specific patient. Okay. Let's take a look at Jake here. So Jake Jensen. All right. So we're going to first start with CMJ. So I'm going to take a quick look at Jake here. And we're going to see within CMJ, again, I can enter all the details. This is incredible information, folks. And this is something typically you're using a very antiquated old school method to gather the data, be it a measuring tape or a piece of tape on the wall. Many other things can be done to measure this, which are somewhat flawed and potentially with a high error aptitude. Now, let's look at this real quickly here. So left versus right, so we're able to establish not only a cumulative, but a left versus right strategy. It's going to give you the millisecond spent, the delta in flight, the delta of that, and how high we are jumping. So as you can see here, it was roughly a 14.2 inch vertical. And then from here, we're also able to look at things like flexion angle at takeoff, the velocity at which they take off, a contact stability, which is key. And one of my favorites is looking at things like max acceleration at landing. So how are they landing? And the pronation, supination angles there as well. Okay, so this is all available under the advanced setting. And again, you do also have the features of being able to export this or compare different times over each other. All right. And let's take a quick look at one of his other ones. So that's CMJ. Okay. So as you can see, just so you know, we are looking at a patient who had an ankle sprain. Now I want to do triple hop with Jake. Okay, so we'll see this in detail. Fantastic. So with triple hop, what we're able to look at is the distance left versus right. So as you can see in the left here, he jumped a total of 887, on the right 196. So he's got good symmetry overall. But let's take a deeper look into this, right? So we can actually look at what is the distance between us. Was he making it up more in one jump than the other? So as you can see here at the start, big distance on the left, but as we get further here, you can see it decreases. Now on the right, it's almost like he's warming up, right? So really good data. Again, average time in stance versus swing on both left and the right. Again, some of the general parameters that I showed you. If I toggle on advance, there's one other key piece that you're getting into these single leg jumps, which is rotation around Z-axis. Fantastic feature that you're not able to typically measure any other way. And again, some of these other ones like max acceleration at landing, flexion, contact stability, and pronation, supination. Okay, so this is a quick look. We'll take a look at one other one, and that is going to be our side hop. Okay, so side hop again is a period of 30 seconds. So this looks at the jump count, left versus right, the symmetry, which is 88%, which is not ideal here. And again, stance time and swing time, the average, the flight time average as well, and the deltas between that always showed in the middle. And then as you can see here, you're actually able to look at each of the jumps on what's occurring. Okay, so very, very interesting detail as well that you're able to get off of this. All right, and then last but not least, again, our standard general parameters that looks at multiple things like rotation on Z, max acceleration at landing, so on and so forth. And as I mentioned earlier, you can couple this with the video at the same time, so you get a really, really rich experience. Okay. So I wanted to just give everybody a quick tour. The beauty of this product is, it also makes it a very affordable way to introduce technology in a clinic in an easy way. And if you want to know more on how you can potentially demo this on our web interface or to get other pricing, please reach out to your North Coast sales representative or contact, and they would be happy to help.